So last week was the introduction of the first strike decks to Flesh and Blood, and with it came Terra, a rare hero, which means that, that's right, he is common or legal, and there is zero doubt in my mind that he hits as the best guardian within the format. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my Flesh and Blood friends. Welcome back to another installment of Dice Commando here on the channel. Today, specifically, we are talking Terra, who just dropped about a week ago. We've known about him for a while, but he just dropped a week ago in terms of legality, which means that I think you're going to start seeing this old cranky grandpa version 2.0, whatever it may be, but I think you're going to see him showing up at your commoner events because I think he is the best commoner hero. Even though his kit may not even be fully developed yet, I don't think it's completely relevant, and it can only get better. Now, to understand why I'm saying this, we do need to go back and look at Pump and Thump. So for those of you who have watched the channel for a long time, you know that Bravo Pump and Thump is a deck I developed, and I've had pretty good success with it. It has been waning in terms of its success following Part the Mistveil dropping in terms of, Enigma and stuff like that. But overall, this was what I believe to be the best Guardian build. And the way that this functionally works is it counts on 2 cards, Thump, and it was even good before Concuss, but Concuss came in heavy hitters, just add it to it. You then have a card like Pummel. The whole idea here, it's commoner, it's not super complicated, right? You try and use your Goliath Gauntlet, come in with a Dominated Thump. Pummel, maybe you strip 2 cards. Concuss, you're threatening something, do a lead a might or whatever with a might token into Concuss. But cranky grandpa now, right? Again, it's pretty clear what we're trying to do here. We're trying to come in with these cards specifically, as well as some other tricks we have to use in the Bravo deck to make it work. And that's why I firmly believe that Terra will come in and be just the best Guardian heroes, because he can do effectively what we want to do with this build without doing a whole lot of work, and he can defend. Okay, and he can defend. So let's look at Terra here. Terra's ability reads, at the beginning of each end phase, if there is an earth card in your pitch zone, you may pay 1 resource. If you do, create a might token. So not only does this give us a place to use our leftover resources, but it can be especially efficient in a format where we do not have access to something like tectonic plating, which allows us to otherwise sink those resources in to seismic surges. But on top of that, the might tokens actually feed the remainder of our strategy. First off, it is very important to note that Terra works on both turns. Okay, now in the commoner format, there's only a couple of cards that you'll end up wanting to pay for on your opponent's turn. Now that there may be other options out there in the future with the release of Rosetta and stuff like that. And yes, we'll talk about that in the future of this cast, But Terra works on both turns. So if you have 1 floating left over, right, obviously in constructed formats, you're looking at like Ram's Head, stuff like that. But in commoner functional, you're going to look at stuff like Peace of Mind, Oasis Respite, perhaps some of the pay D-Reacts. I don't know why you would run those, because you're going to be space constrained. I think you just run the 0/4s. But you understand ultimately what I'm driving at. Now, of course, on his turn, you can pay, do the thing, maybe a swing for a setup. But what's really cool about this is whether you go first or second, you're in many cases able to put it in. You can also do some sneaky stuff with him if you're going if you're going second, they get to go first. You can even potentially use some of the pay equipment, right? The Iron Hides, pay for that and make sure that you have 1 floating. Go in with the might token, right? And the whole point of that being that you come in now with stuff, buffed attacks. So what you're going to do in this functionally, right, you can start to see the lines already. All of a sudden, Rainbow Thump looks real good. All of a sudden, Rainbow Concuss looks real good. And you start asking, do I really need anything else besides my hammer? Maybe a pummel, maybe some other tiny tricks. But by and large, that's your thing. And then you just defend, pitch blues, and do your thing. I think it's very, very, very strong. Right, so we do have a number of new Earth cards out there. I do have to be honest, I was surprised. Maybe not surprised is maybe not the right word. But I think inherently when a lot of us are, I'm like, okay, all we need are some more Earth blues that are 3 defense. To be clear, there's a number of Earth blues out there, but the vast majority of them defend for 2, right? And again, we're talking specific earth cards, which is what he needs. There's not a lot of 3 defense ones. So I think, and to be clear, we could still see more, almost certainly we'll see more in the future, right? And again, I don't want to go down the open constructed path because there's a lot of really cool things going on there. We are talking commoner here. So if you really go look at that distribution, there's not a ton. His new deck coming out to the point of what I'm talking about right now, it actually didn't see, I expected him to get a couple in that deck and it really didn't. Now, that's not a complaint. When you look at the 2 decks together, actually, I think it's really well balanced, really well designed for what the product's trying to do. So 2 thumbs up there, not a problem. But it does mean now that we have to look at Rosetta for more, or potentially his future Armory deck, because I do believe that he'll be in the Armory deck in December. This is for a couple of reasons. First off, Terra has no comma after his name. So it is very clear that Terra will be an adult hero in the future. Now, when I say that, I've actually had some people get upset at me about that. I don't care how he gets delivered, folks. We know we're going to see an adult hero of him at some point. I think it will likely be in an Armory deck because James had gone on to a podcast at one point and said that, yes, there will be a introduction of a new hero in an Armory deck. So to me, that makes sense. I'm not saying it has to be that way. If you want to get him out as a Majestic out of Rosetta, great. I don't care. Don't get angry at me about that. Can we just not? I'm sorry. Rant over. Let's move on with our lives. Okay. But I do think it's very, very, very highly likely that he will be in an Armory deck. And with that will probably come some of those really spicy blue cards to make you want to go buy that deck. Okay. And then maybe we'll see him in Armory kit in the future or whatever it may be. Okay. So we have a lot of options coming for him. I do want to be clear though, the Armory deck would highly likely be M's just because that's the pattern we've seen. So I wouldn't count on that too much from a commoner standpoint. But right now, if you really go look at what you have available, it's Autumn's Touch, Burgeoning, stuff like that to just fill out the blue list. You're not going to be efficiently able to completely fill it out because I think you still want to rely on some of those blues for poppers, right? Like the traditional Guardian blues, for poppers. So I think in commoner, you have to be a little selective as what you're trying to do. Remember, you're also going to be using up 2 slots that don't count as blues in your Thump and your Concuss because you're going to want to be playing those and threatening. But this is really cool. The potential here to just plug and play, kind of a plug and play with significant modifications into the existing, what I believe to be the existing best Guardian deck. I think he pops in and does it better. But let me know if you agree or disagree. That's it for me today, folks. Go Commando.